Okay, we're down here with the Ben Atkinson crew chief, Moth Gleeson. Moth's going to take us for a bit of a look at a sprint car without its clothes on, Moth.
No worries. Starting from the back first, this is the fuel tank involved in the race car. Stores up to like 25 gallons of fuel in the back of it. Coming forward, most cars run this rear brake on the left-hand side. Also some run one here as well, yep, on the left-hand, and one on the right-hand side as well. Involved here is a quick change differential. In the back side, you just remove the back hat, replace 2 gears, put it back in, and that changes the gear ratio in it.
Yep.
Working forward, we have a torque tube here, which is a major essential part of the car to keep this square to the motor plate. Inside the torque tube is a shaft that spins, and it's a direct drive from the engine through to the differential. There's no gearbox, it's either in gear or out of gear.
What's that line you just got running through from there?
This is a return line for the fuel pump.
Yep.
It's all mechanical, so basically the faster the motor spins, the faster the fuel pump spins, and we need to return fuel at maximum RPM back to the engine, back to the fuel tank.
Okay.
Yep. Working forward, we have a steering box, which is runs off the back of the camshaft. Off the back of the camshaft, we have the fuel. We have the fuel pump, and we also have the power steering pump off the back of the motor plate there, which is straight into the back of the engine.
Right.
Working forward again, some cars run an MSD ignition box. Most of the later cars have got these on now, or a magneto, and we have the box, which generally has a chip in it, an 8.5 or a 9,000 chip, so the boys don't over rev it, and the actual magneto's inside here. As we can see, it's all mechanically injected, so there's no electronics involved with it at all. Some cars run 8 nozzles or 16 nozzles.
Where are nozzles? What are we talking about? These are the nozzles here?
This is what supplies fuel to the engine.
Yep.
And the fuel runs down in there and goes into the intake manifold. Yep. And working forward, we have all the engines are dry sumps. Yep. So the oil's stored in here. Up to 8 litres of oil is stored inside the dry sump tank, and runs straight off the front of the engine with a dry sump pump off the front there.
Yep.
All cars run a radiator.
Yep.
Some are a half radiator or a full radiator, depending on what their cooling needs are. Sprint cars only run one front brake. It's a left front brake, and all sprint cars have to run a left front brake. Basically, these are the torsion arms that give you the suspension and the ride height, and the shock absorbers mount through here.
Okay, so there's normally a shock there?
There's normally a shock absorber there. These boys on the weekend had a bit of a tear up, so they basically replaced the front beam today, and changed their hubs and stubs and spindles, which are these here, onto another beam. They're basically now a disposable item.
Yep.
And front arms as well. So generally 9 times out of 10, when they're involved in a crash, we can replace all the parts as long as they don't damage the main structure of the race car.
Okay. Now running the other side here, we're looking at this long bar down here that runs back to the steering.
Yeah, we've got steering rods and radius rods which keep the front axle in position. Basically when the driver turns the steering wheel, it reacts down through the side of the car and onto the front axle, which turns the front wheels.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, is that protected to some degree by this Nerf bar, crash bar here?
It is protected. Generally, this is a much safer Nerf bar to run than the lightweight ones, because if a car gets in here, you can't actually flip your car over. So basically with these, you're a lot better off to have this sort of a Nerf bar.
Because that's a very vulnerable component, considering how important it is.
Yeah, and generally it can be bent and you can still run it, but once it starts to bend, it can crack and break, and yeah, it's all over for you.
Yeah. Not good. Up here on top, the hydraulic
wing ram, which is adjusted through the cockpit by this hand control here.
So the lines run up. All braided lines and everything?
All braided lines. Some guys run a plastic line, but the braided line's more durable and a lot safer to run a braided line.
Okay, and the obligatory plug for the website, always on the side of the roll cage there.
Yes, everyone likes to have a plug.
Down the back here, the way you work on the car with tools and things.
Yeah, basically most teams have got a tool tray on the back. So when you remove the parts, you place them in the tool tray here, clean them up, wash them up, grease them and service them and replace them back inside the car.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you work on the cars on stands?
On stands, try and keep the car off the ground, out of the dirt generally, because most of the time you're working on it could be in a motel car park or actually at the racetrack. Here we're lucky we're in a clean environment. Try and keep the car level and square so that we can measure and make sure everything's square as we do our jobs.
I just want to know why he's near our car.
He's checking it all out.
Oh, right. Okay.
Now, over there in the background will be, in fact, your boy's car, James McFadden's car. This is Dave McFadden, who's the crew chief of this said car. Boy's going all right.
Yeah, he's surprising me a little bit. He had a big crash in Adelaide, which is a bit of an eye opener for him, and you know we've had to repair a fair bit of stuff. Actually, quite a lot of stuff from the crash. Yeah.
Now, have you found any secrets at all that he wouldn't have wanted you to find out of all this, Mike? You're known to be hanging around other cars and just checking things out.
No, I've actually had one of these crew shirts on before, so I've got this base covered.
Ah, fair enough.